Schools, colleges, and universities have become homogenizing systems that are almost exclusively focused on imposing pre-ordered curricula through exams and grades or tight research lines. In the process, they are killing passion, creativity, and individuals' potential and skills. Ultimately, schools and academia make up a system that serves a collective machinery, but suffocates individual growth. However, this state of affairs is not a necessary evil. Learning, discovering, and teaching can be a natural, spontaneous, and luminous expression of a free and progressive growth if they are allowed to be practiced in an appropriate environment. This book is a sort of manifesto for a free progress education paradigm, according to which the best way of learning, acquiring knowledge, and doing research comes through a process of free self-directed learning and a progress of self-unfoldment and self-discovery that must be guided from within instead from without. In schools, colleges, universities, and beyond. A free progress education learning center would be expected to foster curiosity, intuition, self-directed learning in diversity, and especially wholesome respect for the practice of complete and responsible freedom of individual expression. Free progress education goes beyond the standard paradigm of unschooling or the pedagogical approach of democratic schools, since it includes self-directed education that can also work in high schools, colleges, universities, and research centers. It is a blueprint that envisages the liberation not only of children in schools, but also of students in high schools and universities as a release of academic research from the bonds of inflexible institutions and limiting hierarchies. It is in this sense and this optics that we envisage a free progress education, as the subtitle says, a futuristic vision of self-directed, project-oriented, direct democratic and non-hierarchical learning communities from primary education to academic research. So just to give you the opportunity to take a look also at the contents and the insight of this book, you can see by the table of contents I have an introduction where I give my motivations for the ideal of a free progress education, and I begin also with a personal preamble, which means that I explain how I came to these conclusions and why I support this kind of a new paradigm. And I describe substantially my own personal, to a certain degree also very private experience with schools as not only as a pupil, as a child who has learned, and as a student in universities, but also as a teacher and someone who taught also partially in universities and a teacher in a school, and where this experience, times also a particularly painful experience, showed me especially what schools and what our educational system should not be. And sometimes when you know what is not, what should not be, you automatically know what can be much better. So then I explain the problem with modern education. And well, I go through also modern educational systems and also describe our society, how our society suffers, and also especially in science and so-called big science, what all the our economy, our society as a whole suffers from this educational system that is now centuries old and it is time to go beyond that. But then I will describe also this free progress paradigm, which is not mine, but is from, it comes from Seer, the Indian mystic, yogi, and poet Sri Aurobindo, and his spiritual partner called also the Mother. But I keep this book mainly secular. It is based essentially on a spiritual worldview, but it is not necessary to agree with the spiritual worldview. You can also look at it from a secular point of view, and I think you will agree that our educational system must change somehow. So, where I will not only criticize our educational system, but I will also try to make some proposals. And where I discuss these proposals is in the chapter which I named What a Free Progress School and University Might Look Like, because it still doesn't exist. So we are still a bit speculative, but it is speculation based on modern understanding of education, also in part on neuroscience, and where I developed what this free progress education idea is applied from an idea which in a certain sense is 100 years old, but is applied to modern times. And here you can see what ordinary education is and what free progress education is supposed to be. I do also proposals, what should be abolished and what is to be proposed. And then I discuss the didactical foundations of free progress school and a university, where nowadays we have a lot of new novel systems of teaching and learning, like blended learning, peer instruction, flipped teaching, the SOUL method, LIAS, natural learning, and so on, inquiry-based learning that I like in particular. And there are very different forms of learning and teaching, which, however, continue not to be applied in conventional schools or only rarely in private schools. So that's a project that I think is very realistic and that can help us also practically with practical advices, and that goes beyond just school bashing. It goes beyond that, because nowadays we all agree that the school system and our educational system, not only schools, but I claim also universities and academic institutions, are old, much too old, and the times are changing. We must necessarily change this. We must go beyond the present paradigm. How? You can discover in the book on free progress education. So I hope you will reach out for this book, and if you want to get a copy, a hard copy, or read it in form of an ebook, you can find the links below in the description. Thank you very much for your attention, and enjoy.